I'm here with American comedian Kurt Metzger, and we're talking about a new article in The Guardian about natural immunity. And let me just stop here and tell you, you're not immune to humor, are you? Because we're doing our Jimmy Dore stand-up tour 2022, and we're going to be in Houston and Dallas on the 20th and on the 22nd and 24th of March. And then we're going to Tampa, Orlando. We're going everywhere. We're going to Ohio and Pittsburgh and Omaha. Go to jimmydorcomedy.com for a link of all our tickets for all our shows. And why one shot after a COVID-19 infection should suffice to be considered fully vaxxed. This is by Eric Topol, and he's a smarty pants guy who edits a medical journal. The term fully vaccinated needs to be redefined. So here we go. So, when they fired 72,000 healthcare workers, people who had worked through the pandemic, interacting with people who were infected with COVID while there was no vaccine. So there was no vaccine and no treatment. That's what they said. There always was, but that's what they said. And so now they fired those people because they wouldn't get vaccinated. So now we're finding out other information that makes those decisions look not only anti-science, but nefarious. Okay. In the very large trial on the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, single shot, compared with a placebo, among over 2,000 participants with prior infections, as documented by positive antibody status, their protection against moderate or severe disease was 90%. So if you got COVID and had one vaccine shot, according to this, your protection against moderate or severe disease was 90%. That's much higher than the vaccine efficacy of 56%. Yet the CDC recognizes two-shot of this vaccine as fully vaccinated, but ignores these data and many other proof points of natural immunity protection. So what he's saying, what this article is saying, and again, I'm not saying it, I'm just reporting it. And I'm not giving anybody medical advice. I'm reporting on this thing. And I have to say that, or YouTube will take my channel down. In the very large trial on the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, single shot compared with placebo, among the 2,000 participants. So if you had already had been infected with COVID, and then you got one single shot of the Johnson & Johnson, you got 90% protection. And according to this Eric Topol guy, he says the vaccine efficacy, that's much higher than the vaccine efficacy of 56%. Yet the CDC recognizes only the two-shot of this vaccine as fully vaccinated.
56%.
That's what.
Wow. Okay.
A recent CDC report for COVID in California that included the Delta wave, the cumulative hospitalization rate for the vaccinated was 0.7% among vaccinated. Wow, they say it twice. And 0.3% unvaccinated with prior infection. So if you were vaccinated and you got COVID, you had a 0.7% chance of being hospitalized. That's how I read this. But if you had prior infection and were not vaccinated, you had an actually lower incidence of having to be hospitalized. That's how I read that. Is that how you read that, Kurt?
Yeah, I just want to make sure looking at it.
I want to make sure too. I've read it now. It probably
sounds so different from
I know.
what I was told.
I've read it probably 20 times now, and again, it sounds exactly like when the people who said this were dismissed as conspiracy nuts and right wingers and Trumpers. The people who said this. I think, and Joe Rogan also said things like similar to this, talking about natural immunity and the doctors that went on his show. And here it is.
So the science has changed. So I guess you must be psychic because you somehow predicted the change of science a year ago.
Notably, a 10-fold lower risk of subsequent infection was found in the people with natural immunity compared with those vaccinated in the Cleveland Clinic Health System study of over 52,000 employees. So, according to this, natural immunity gave you a 10-fold lower risk of subsequent infection. So if you got COVID, you would have a 10-fold lower risk of getting COVID again as opposed to someone who got vaccinated. That's how I read that. Is that how you read that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that doesn't explain the people I know that had it and then had 3 shots and had it again.
Right. Well, we're going to get to that, Kurt. We're actually going to get to that. These reports convey a high level of protection of natural immunity, at times comparable to 2-shot vaccines. And multiple studies following people at least 15 months out from their COVID infections have shown persistent antibody levels and memory B cells. So the people saying I have natural immunity, why should I have to get a vaccine and a vaccine passport to go about my life? It seems like they have a big argument to make, and the people who are pushing vaccine mandates for people who already were infected with COVID seem to be not following the science, but following the propaganda and doing the bidding of Big Pharma. That's what it seems like. That's what it seems like.
Who cares now? All I care about is Ukraine.
That's right. That's right.
This is water under the bridge.
Oh, come on. So I got 72,000. I cheered on 72,000 people getting fired in New York State because they wouldn't get vaccinated. So what?
These are the pans of get out of here.
Yeah.
Now. Put away the pans of good job. It's time.
So reinfections among those with natural immunity throughout the pandemic until the recent Omicron wave have been very low, less than 1%. Did you know that?
Wow.
Reinfections among those with natural immunity until very recently, because Omicron is way more contagious than everyone. They say, Fauci says everyone's likely to get Omicron and nothing can stop it, have been less than 1%. So before Omicron, people who got COVID and then recovered, less than 1% got reinfected. A United Kingdom study of about 9,000 people with prior infections demonstrated higher than 90% protection against subsequent infections, even among those who had COVID more than 18 months previously. So even if you've had COVID almost a year and a half earlier, you're still being provided protection. That's what this is saying. That's how I read that.
Where's the don't know, don't care guy? How many more shots will you have to get?
Don't know, don't care.
He's probably not knowing and not caring about this right now.
A new report of nearly 150,000 people with COVID infections in Israel said there was no difference for the protection with more than 1 dose of vaccine. The same was found in another study. So they're saying here that if you got a vaccine, 1 dose, it provided you protection. And then if you got more than 1 dose, there was no difference for the protection. I'm guessing if you were already infected. That's what I'm thinking they're saying. Or he's saying. In Qatar, while the protection of natural immunity was about 90% for previous alpha, beta, and gamma variants, it dropped to 56% for Omicron. Okay. In the United Kingdom, the risk of reinfection for people with prior COVID spiked to a level 16-fold what had been seen previously. So Omicron, way more infectious. Yet an Omicron wave study from Cleveland Clinic in about 8,000 people with natural immunity, 1 shot of vaccine markedly reduced the risk of infection, and 2 or 3 shots had no incremental protective benefit. So they're saying if you got COVID, you don't need 2 shots. That's what they're saying. Now, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that's what they're saying. And that's the science. And no one's talking about this. That same finding was consistent in the Israel and UK studies. One shot did the trick, no added protection from 2 or 3 shots. Holy effing F.
You should play a clip of Joy Behar saying, "Get over it.
Get over it."
After you report this stuff.
Yeah. Indeed, the waning protection after 1 year in the UK study was averted with 1 dose of the vaccine. Yet an Omicron wave study. Oh, wait, did you already do this? Oh, I think I already did this. Yeah, we already did this. I put this in twice for some reason. Which brings us to hybrid immunity. It would be reckless to ever recommend someone get purposely infected with COVID, even though Fauci says everyone's going to get Omicron likely or get infected with it. However, for those who have sustained an infection, their immune response was directed to the whole virus, whereas our vaccines are specific to the spike protein. So what that says is that if you get COVID, your immune responds to the entire virus. If you get the vaccine, it only responds to the spike protein. So this is implying you get a greater immune response from having had the natural infection. The result of combining the different immune responses is synergy, more than additive, a powerful and durable protection, 25 to 100 times more antibody response, and broader against variants of the virus. So they're saying that if it's not one or the other, they're saying the synergy of both gives you this kind of great protection. Note that we do not have the same evidence for the opposite order, vaccination prior to breakthrough infections. Really? That is so. What do you think? So what is that telling you, Kurt? No, tell me if I'm wrong. So it's saying that if you get sick with COVID and then get a vaccine, then you have a durable protection, 25 to 100 times more antibody response and broader against variants of the virus than you would have without it. Note that we do not have the same evidence for the opposite order, vaccination prior to. So if you get vaccinated and then you get
a breakthrough, it's not as good as and then get vaccinated.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
Yeah.
I think that's what they're saying. It is now clearly overdue for the United States and the CDC to acknowledge natural immunity as a partial path to protection, as has been previously done in several countries. The term fully vaccinated needs to be redefined for people who have received 2 mRNA vaccine shots without prior infection. A third shot, booster, is needed to protect against symptomatic and severe disease. So let me read that again because it sounds confusing. For people who have received 2 mRNA vaccine shots without prior infection, a third shot so if you have never had it, you may need a third or a booster. That's what they're saying. Okay. On the other hand, for people with natural immunity with proof of a positive PCR test, 1 shot is all that is necessary to be considered fully vaccinated. That's according, again, YouTube. I'm just reporting someone saying this. One can fully understand why vaccine mandates would be repudiated when there was evidence of protection conferred by infection. Now, as the virus evolved, we are at a time when natural immunity alone is not sufficient, but with a single shot, it's as good as 3. So that's big news. And it's also huge news how much protection you got from natural immunity to the coronavirus up until now. So Omicron is blowing that away, but natural immunity gave you gave you great protection from COVID. But now it's and so
well, just time has gone by to have the studies and stuff.
Yes,
like now there's a better. They know better. Like that's what the science is changing. It was the bullshit they were pushing up top, and
Yes. And so that's very interesting too, that if you get the infection first and then the booster, it works better than if you get a vaccine and then get sick. So if you get a breakthrough infection, it doesn't seem to confer the same kind of immunity if you would have got sick first and then got a dose. That's what I'm reading.
Just tell me how many boosters to get.
I'm done with it all. I'm done with I've still got it. I feel it in my neck every day. So
is that a good immunity, at least, having long COVID? Is that like at least confer something?
I know. So now you know the rest of the story, and all that divisiveness and all that garbage. It was not based on science. It wasn't based on science. People screaming at the unvaxxed, even though they had natural immunity. That was not based. That was just based on propaganda, and they'll never apologize. Those people who are pushing vaccine mandates are never going to apologize.
Well, that's because we scientifically hate Russia now.
Yes. We scientifically hate them.
We've done the studies and we hate them.
They'll never admit that they were wrong, ever. Believe me, no one has ever admitted they were wrong about Russiagate, and no one will ever admit they were wrong about vaccine mandates. No one will ever admit it. They're not going to admit it. Hey, we got more dates for our 2022 stand-up tour. We're going everywhere. We're going to Dallas, Houston, Florida. We're going to Omaha, Des Moines, Pittsburgh, Columbus, Ohio, and Los Angeles. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all the tickets for all our shows.